Hey guys, so today I want to talk about the creative process of me making a Rude Boy and kind of how I came up with the concept, what inspired me to create this one, and then just go over the whole workflow of how I made it and how I like to go about making stuff. And it's always a little bit different, but today I'll show you just how I made this one, and yeah, so kind of let's get into it. And for this one, I actually recorded the whole process of me making this figure from scratch, from A to B. But it was a long, tedious process and just a bunch of me kind of hand placing these little stars around, and so I just want to kind of go over it after it's been made and just talk a little bit about the different things that's in the figure. Yeah, and so the first thing I like to do is I have this collection right here with the box in itself. So when I start up, I like to kind of hide that one, and I also have this collection with all the stars and stuff as well. So this is kind of how it started out, and then and it was a different color as well. So first, I'll just save this as a cosmic tutorial, so I don't mess up the original file. And so when I first started this one out, it was a completely different color. I think it was green actually, because I usually go from the last figure that I make, and the last one I made was the turtle figure. And so it was green and it had this shell around it and stuff. So I just removed that and cleaned it all up to get this kind of very blank looking character. And then I experimented around with colors a bit, and I was in kind of a really happy mood at this time when I was making this one, and I wanted to create something that kind of resonated with how I felt at the moment. And the reason for that I felt so happy was I've been talking to my coach and just kind of lifted a load off my chest, and it was really nice. And it was spring outside, and the sky was blue, awesome, beautiful sun. And so I just wanted to make something uh, that felt like the mood that I was in. And the concept was to just create a character as like going around and spreading happiness and positivity into the world, which I really felt like at that moment. And I'm still really in that same mood just a couple of days later. And so that's super lovely. So I experimented a little bit, and I made this color pink, and we can look more into the kind of node setup of this material, and it's super simple. So you can see if you look closer, there's like some tiny scratches on there, and the way I got those is I have this roughness map, right? And so it's just an image texture, so that's gray and black, and you can also use a image texture with color as well, and then you just plug it into this color ramp, and this color ramp kind of uh, shows what's is plugged into the roughness. And so the darker spots are more like black are more shiny, and white is more rough. And so I wanted something semi-shiny and kind of rough. So that's how I got this material. And it has a little bit of subsurface on here, and so we can change that as well. Subsurface is kind of the light that goes into the object, and then when it comes out, it has like a different color. You know, when you have like a flashlight through your hand, and so I don't know if you can see probably the light that shines through my finger here, the red kind of color. That's basically subsurface, or subsurface scattering, which it is actually called. Yeah. And so I just played around with this material for a little bit and found something that I thought looked nice. And then for the color of the head or the face, it's just two separate materials on the same mesh. So I just pick whatever part of the mesh you want, and then you press assign. And that's how you basically get that material on your part of the mesh. And then the face is just a sticker. It's like it's this mesh that I have mapped to an existing image, and I just put that image in there so I can show you. So I have a bunch of different images that I have made. I make them in Illustrator. And so this is kind of this was kind of the starting point, and then I removed the nose in Illustrator, and I wanted to add those blushy cheeks. But I thought it'd be cool to when I had like all the stars and the hearts and the moon on this character, to kind of make those blushy cheeks in a theme that fit the character. And so that's what I did to kind of tie it all more together. And then when I had this, I knew I wanted some stars on here as well. And so yeah, and so let me see here. Yeah, the stars. And so I added a bunch of these stars and moon and heart, and I can show you how I made all of these different shapes. So I want to talk about how I made those different shapes, the moon, the star, and the heart one. And so let's start with the star, and this was kind of the easiest for me to make. So I started with a cylinder, and it usually says here on the side here 32, because that's the standard cylinder vertice amount. But I know I wanted 5, or I ended up with wanting 5 points on the star. First I thought I wanted 6, but 5 looked a lot better. So I made 10 vertices, because you divide it by 2 to get the amount of points you want in the star. And so I have this cylinder with 10 vertices, and then I scale it down to make it more flat. Then I press Ctrl A and apply the scale. And in order to scale, you just have the item selected, and then you press S. That's how you scale it. And if you want to scale it in the height, press S and then set or C. And then along the x-axis, press S and X. And then along the y-axis, you press S and Y. And if you want to kind of scale it along 2 axes at the same time, you press scale and then, for instance, Shift C. Then you scale it along the X and Y axis at the same time, and isolating the C axis. And you can do this all the different ways you like. However, let's go into edit mode, and you have to have X-ray mode selected. And the way I'm snapping, by the way, to these angles is by holding in Alt, the Alt key. And it snaps to 90 and 45 degree angles. And so let's select these points, every other point. If you don't have X-ray selected, you will just select the upper point when you're looking from a 90 degree view. I can show you. So if I have this off and I select, you only get the first one. That's annoying with the headset. However, so let's have X-ray selected, and let's select every other vertice. I'm just holding in Shift to select these, and then let's scale it S, Shift, and C along the C axis, or to isolate the C axis rather. And we get this star shape. And let's press Ctrl A to apply the scale. Then let's select the different edges, because I wanted to have them a little bit rounded off. Then I press Ctrl B when I have those selected to round them off. And you can round it however much you like. I think this looks kind of good. Right click and then shade smooth if you want that. I also first thought I wanted to round off these inner edges as well, but that was not so good. That didn't look so nice. So this is what I ended up with. And then I also I have up here you can choose between the different selection methods, and I use 1, 2, or 3 to use them. And now I'm on edge selection mode. And so I wanted to bevel it a bit as well along these top and bottom edges. So I just hold in Alt and then click this one, and then Shift Alt to select this one as well. And then Control B to bevel. And if you press C, it clamps, so it doesn't overlap like this. But I think this is a good bevel selection. And you can even have fewer vertices. And you get this, or cuts rather, you get this by scrolling up and down your mouse wheel. And I think 2 here is actually pretty good. Like that. And that's how you make the star one. And then I just scale it down, and I just press Alt D to duplicate it. And now they're all the same instance. So if you were to edit one of them, you'll edit every one. And you can just also press Shift D, and then but then they become kind of unique objects. So if you go in and edit it, it doesn't apply to the other one. That's just something to note. And so that's how I made the star one. And then I just went around and placed it like with my hands manually. And a quick tip when it comes to placing this one, and you want to rotate it, because when you press R, you just rotate along like the axis you're looking at. If you press R again, you can rotate it in a more three-dimensional way, which is really helpful. And so for the next shape is the heart shape, and the way I made that one was also quite easy. I just made a cube, rotated it 90 degrees, scaled it down a little bit. Then I pressed 3 to select this face, and then extrude it by 1. And so that's a bit too much right now when it's this scale. But let's see if we have it bigger like this. Rotate it 90 degrees, select the face, extrude 1. And that's what I did. And then I want to extrude this one as well. E and then 1. So they're extruded the same amount. Then I selected all the edges here, and you do this by having the edge selection tool. You get that one with 2, and then you just press the first one, hold in Shift, and you select the other ones as well. And then you can press Control B to bevel it. And this worked okay now because I didn't change the scale, but let's see if I change the scale and then I use Control B. You can see it worked. Okay, it worked, but so it's a good thing to apply the scale. If not, you can get weird scaling. So Control B, and then we have C put in, so it's clamping, it's stopping there, and we can just scroll up our mouse wheel to get the desired heart shape that we want. Then we can choose these faces, and then we can move them along the y-axis to kind of make them cleaner. And the way I move it along the y-axis, if I press G to move it, and then Y. And the same goes for x-axis and c-axis as well. And so if I were to choose and bevel this thing right now, I think we would have some issues. So I've selected these edges, and then I press bevel, and it's not really beveling because there's some points overlapping here. I don't know why my headset does that. Either way, so if we select everything by pressing A and then merging, so we want to press M and then by distance, you can see down here, remove the 12 vertices, and that's removing the vertices that's just overlapping perfectly with each other, and you don't want that kind of geometry. And so if I select all of these, the way I'm selecting kind of all of these around the corner is by pressing Shift and Alt and just clicking. It's like the loop selection tool. And then we want to do this on the other side as well. Like that. And then press Control B to bevel it. And that's basically how you get the heart shape. And then you can right click and shade smooth. Another thing I did with this one was that I went to X-ray mode here, and I selected this lower vertice, and I put on smooth, or this one, so it's grabbing more of the, what's it called? proportional editing. So it's grabbing more of the vertices around it with like a smooth fall off. But I wanted it to be a sharp fall off, and then I just moved these things a little bit down. Not too much, but just a little bit, because then the heart shape was a lot more prominent. And that's how you make that one. And for the last one, the moon, it's another technique, and I just used a boolean. So I made the cylinder. Let's go for 32 vertices. Rotate it along the x-axis, and then we can just scale it along the y-axis as well. And then I just press Ctrl A to apply the scale. Then I duplicate it and I move it along the x-axis. And you can see kind of the moon shape coming to life right there. So let's scale this a little bit on the y-axis as well, so it's kind of overlapping properly. And then what we want to do is have this piece selected that we want to make the moon from. And let's add a modifier, and let's add the Boolean modifier. And then we'll choose difference, and we select this one. And now you can see the shape here is the moon shape. But if we are to move just this one away, nothing's really happening. It's kind of just bringing with it the shape. So we have to apply this. Control A, just hover over here and Control A to apply. And then it's applied, and we have the moon shape. And then we just select the edges and we bevel it. And then we shade it smooth. That's how we get the moon. And so I just placed all of those around to kind of bring this cosmic love moon energy to this character. And then I also made them glow, so they're glowing and beating like a pulsation kind of effect. Oh, you can't see my hand, but it's pulsing, right? Which I think is really cool. And the way I did this was by going into shading here on the material, and I added let's remove this material and let's do it from scratch. So let's make a new material, and then we want to go to emission here. So let's bump up the emission, and let's choose a color. Let's just choose green for this one, because we don't have anything, or just so we can see it more clearly from the other ones. So it's green now. And what you want to do is you want to press I on the star to create a keyframe, and then we're at the start of the timeline. And then let's just move 10 frames forward, and let's choose 5 at emission strength here, and then press I again. So now we have these 2 points, and you can see it's going from not so bright to brighter. It's a bit hard to see. Let's see if we choose a darker color here, or like a non-color there. Maybe it's better to see right now. You can see it's actually glowing. And what you want to do is you want to have this pulsating in a perfect way. And so what you want to do is we can go to modifiers here, and then press I believe it's cycles, and it's looking very jagged. And what we want to do is we want to have this one keyframe. Let's Shift D and duplicate it, and just put it in here as well. And let's scale this one up, and we got this loop. And so what we want to do is kind of move this around so it's at the same point in the end as it is in the beginning. And right now it's close enough that it'll work. It'll look smooth. You can see it's close enough. And so then we can just play a bit around with this loop thing, and we can even duplicate to kind of make this weird beating patterns. And that's basically how you do it. And then what I did as well was be sure you have this one selected. If it's not selected, the node, then it's hard to add the keyframe. So we gotta have it selected, and then you'll find it here, the default value on this emission thing. And so you can play around with it. There's a lot of fun stuff you can do. You can really make it kind of peak and just go really crazy with it. And you can press everything and just scale it along the x-axis to make it go faster or slower, depending on what you want. And then I just, on the modifier, I just copied it, and then I went to the other shape and I just pasted in the keyframes here. And that's how I made those glowing beating stars. And let's just go back to the other material. What was it called? It was just called material 11. Always name your materials. It's a good way to kind of keep track of everything. And I think that's about it when it covers the character. And then we go over to the box. And so let's kind of get this one out of the way. And so let's go over to the box design. So this is the box. And it's basically the way I work with this box is it's separated. So the box is just one object, but the texture on there, so the logo is a separate object, this font is a separate object, and I can go in and change the name to whatever, and it will change all over the box where it has its name, which I think is a really yeah, it's a good workflow. And then I have redesigned the whole Rude Boys logo, so it's a lot cleaner right now than it usually was. And I made this new sticker here as well, which I think looks a lot better, and it's based off the shape of the Rude Boy head. And I have these custom numbers that I made, and they kind of look like they're making an expression, which I think is really fun. And so we have the Rude Boys logo on the sides of the box as well. And so for the material of this box, I wanted something very colorful and kind of looking like it could be either some sort of a liquid, or it could be kind of like some abstract way of looking at like a galaxy. And so I went ahead and I had this Voronoi texture, and I added a noise texture to it. So you can see how just the Voronoi texture looks like. It's like this, and then it's plugged into this color stuff. And I have these colors on constant. If they were to be east, they would look really different. But I have it on constant, and it creates these hard lines, which I think look really good. And so it's just a noise texture, and you can see how the noise is as well. And when it's combined, they make this one. And so for the noise, I have some distortion here, which really kind of makes this look trippy. You can see how it has the effect. And so here it's just about tweaking the scale and the size of things to get the desired effect that you want. And so all of this goes into a hue saturation node, so I could experiment a little bit with the colors and the brightness of stuff. And then I also have the same colors, they go into this hue saturation node, and it's swapped a little bit, so you can see it's a bit darker on this one. And I have this layer weight node, which kind of, I don't know if you can see it that good, but you can see it's more white towards the edges and then darker towards the center. It's kind of adding a way of, when you're rotating the object, it's kind of changing the color based on the view of the rotation. And so I used the factor from this facing, and I mixed the hue saturations with each other. So I mixed the bright one with the little bit darker one. And what this does is that it creates a very subtle effect. It's easier to see it if I have the whole material selected. You can see how it's darker towards this edge when it's rotated. You can see it's darker here and more brighter here, and it's really just a subtle effect, but it's really noticeable if it's not there. I think it's just something that really takes it and gets it from this level to this level when, like, visually, just for me at least. And so that's how that is done. Then just the colors, and then for the roughness, I just have this pretty, just, it's like a cardboard texture that's really hard to see, but when I add a color ramp and I up this contrast, you can see it a bit more. And so I have it at this ratio right here, and that's plugged into the roughness. And the darker stuff is more shiny. The darker stuff, oh, that's the wrong roughness. The darker stuff is more shiny, and the brighter stuff is more dull. And then for the metallic, something, oh, there we go. I couldn't see the node, but yeah, for the metallic, I have this glittery effect. So I have this pre-made node right here, and I have a Voronoi texture that goes into this mix one, and it uses the object data from the vector here into here. And we have a noise texture as well that's plugged into here, and you can see it's just making this glittery effect, really. And we put this into the separate RGB, and from here one I just took this kind of gray and white color. Usually I use this to make a normal map, so it's going into the red and green channel, and then we just bump the blue one to get this fake normal map. And I multiply this with the normal texture from the box, from the cardboard box texture, and I put it into the normal map, and it's kind of calculating the height difference and how the light kind of hits it. And this is usually what I do to make glitter for the text on the box, but that's not what I wanted to do this time. I wanted to just have these colors basically, or this data, and I put it into this color output. So from this color output right here, I just get this black and white thing, and I wanted it to be kind of shiny. And when it comes to metallic values, white is more metallic and gray or black is less metallic. So I wanted this specular kind of metallic highlights on this box, and you can see them kind of, these just spots popping up sometimes. Let's see if we can get a good, yeah, just these darker spots right here. That's the kind of glittery effect that I wanted to kind of symbolize the stars a little bit with the cosmic kind of theme going on. And that's basically how the box is made. All of this is just image textures. This is just a text. And when I edit this, I can edit it around the box as well. Yeah, this is just image texture. So I can show you guys whenever I want to make a sticker. I just have this guy right here, and I just press F12 to render out an image from this guy. And I just pop that photo into Photoshop and add the border and change the colors. And then I just have this sticker thing here. I just swap out the image here with whichever sticker that I have rendered. And I think that is about it for this one. I also have the glass here. I just like to hide that when I'm working on the box, and you can see how it's looking in the rendered view as well. If there's something specific you'd like me to cover in any other video, just leave it in the comments and or in the Discord, and I'll try to make a video about it. Anyways, that's about it, and thanks for watching. Peace.